Welcome back to the College Football Slate Show on the 1009 Network. It's week 5 of college football. It's very top heavy with ranked, I think about 5 ranked matchups. It's the most that we've had since 2017 in one weekend. I got games from Thursday to Sunday thanks to Hurricane Ian. Well, maybe not thanks to, but it's his fault, I guess you'd say. Starting off with South Carolina and SC State tonight, and then I think finishing. Who's got the Sunday? I think UCF or USF, one of them.
Yeah, Florida plays Sunday, I think.
One of them Florida schools, because obviously Hurricane just went through there, so they won't be able to get things set up and ready for Saturday.
Yeah, SMU UCF.
Yeah, I knew it was one of them directional schools in Florida. You can throw a pinpoint, like a little tack at Florida to hit one of them.
Yeah, close enough.
Like I mentioned, we got 5 top 25 matchups. Big one, obviously, coming out of the ACC this week. It's in Death Valley. It's got game day again. It's another Hurricane battle. It's the great anticipated Textile Bowl. You know, it's nation known that it's the best rivalry in ACC.
Yeah, you almost forget there's a trophy because it stays in the same place 9 times out of 10. But Textile Bowl rivalry game. There's a trophy that will be nice and dry in Clemson by the end of the game, and hopefully it stays that way during. But biggest game in the ACC Atlantic, I would say, since we had Louisville in town in 2016. So as far as playoff implications go, it's all eyes on the ACC Atlantic because we also have Wake Forest headed down to Tallahassee to play Florida State as well. So you're seeing the top 4 teams from the best division at a Power 5 school match up in 1 week. So yeah,
and we'll have boots on the ground for that game too up there up in Clemson. I think both Jacob and Grayson will be there, so be nice to hear from them from the environment, how things look up there, and definitely about that new scoreboard too, since it's a night game.
I'm excited. Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. We might not go live, but post game from TDs, who knows?
That'll get some views. Hey, Triple T, sponsor us.
Yeah, it's the usual nervous excitement with Clemson, especially the last 2 years plus. I mean, we saw this our freshman year when we had Louisville. Every game was a heart attack, and it ended in a national championship. So, I mean, we're coming off a thriller, and it looks like we're locked in for another one. 2 games we got to have. We want to go to Charlotte and win the Atlantic after not doing so last year and get back to the top of the ACC, and then hopefully we're playoff bound by the end of it. So this is I wouldn't say must win, but as close as it gets. I mean, after this, the really only bump in the road following the Wolfpack would be at Florida State in November. So this is one that.
Yeah, don't forget about Syracuse.
I'm gonna forget about Syracuse.
Don't forget about Wake.
I would like to forget about Wake. Certainly one that NC State circles every year because we're the best team they play because they don't really do much outside of that. But now they're the best game on our schedule for once. So it should be a good one.
Which I think this was the last year it'll be played every year. Or no, they scheduled us Georgia Tech, Florida State, NC State, right?
Yeah, I think they're one of the 3. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But, I mean, talking a little bit about this game, I've been thinking about this all week. If he plays well, then we win.
Yeah.
Another game like last week.
Yeah, it's going to happen. What you're about to say. Yeah.
Do we start talking about it?
Yeah, I think we do.
That bronze statue.
I mean, if we talk about Hendon Hooker getting it for beating a Florida team that's going to lose 5 games, I think it's certainly appropriate in his case.
If for some reason, if you're clueless about what we're talking about, I'm not going to jinx it. I'm just saying that the conversation can start about DJ winning a certain trophy that is given out at the end of the year.
It was won by the loser of the game between Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson. The losing quarterback went on to get that trophy, and the winner of that game went on to win a title. So you can keep your stupid trophy at Reggie Bush.
We're not necessarily saying
no
we want it. We just, you can't deny it.
It's the 4th inning without base runners. We're just going to take it 1 inning at a time, and a very, very big inning is this weekend.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And, boy, we need it. Both teams need it. It's going to be a fun one. So, going to be in the schlop. I think the weather is starting to look a little bit better, but.
Yeah, thank goodness. I mean, I feel bad for everybody out in the coast, especially in Charleston. It's looking like that storm might veer right as it enters the state from the south. So, hopefully everybody's getting boarded up and evacuating is needed, staying safe over there. But
I'm going towards it. I got to go work tomorrow, and I'll be halfway to Charleston, and
Bailey
right
will
when it hits.
Bailey will be wakeboarding around your beer as needed. So
I'll
just
be
hit him
Jim
up.
Cantori or whatever his name is, surfing through the
He
streets.
needs $1 billion a year. That's ridiculous, the stuff they have him do.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier too, Wake Forest going down to Florida State, coming off a tough loss to Clemson. I mean, we probably knocked it as a pretty loss, unless you really want to win that game. But
Right.
they can't overlook Florida State now.
No, absolutely not. They're finally ranked. They should be. Kansas, another team that should be in the poll and higher. Florida State coming at 23, Demon Deacons at 22 after the loss last week. They didn't drop much because they shouldn't have. So the AP poll does get some things right. But this Florida State team, they're 4-0, and it hasn't really been all that quietly. They've been really beating people. The offense led by Jordan Travis is shades of past years when they were contending. And we all remember the Dalvin Cook game that we were fortunate to win. I mean, I don't think they have a guy as dominant as that, but if Jordan Travis keeps his trajectory up, then they're going to be maybe that scary by the time we go down there in November. So
I still get bad memories of Dalvin hitting the edge and just going down the sideline.
Yeah, once his body was faced towards the end zone, that's where he went like 6 times.
So it was. I think Florida State, they got a pretty good running game too. I think they got 2 or 3 backs that they're running in and out of games. So like they're definitely someone to be on the lookout. It's definitely a game to circle in the upcoming weeks.
Right. And so, yeah, I was a bit surprised to see them all the way up at a touchdown favorite, but, it's hard to argue with it. Wake Forest coming off an emotional loss, maybe that plays into it a bit. And then, of course, down in Tallahassee, where hopefully, weather permitting, we can get another great game in the Atlantic.
Yep. The next, I guess, we might as well just go rank game by rank game since we already started.
Why not?
Next one, big one that I see is out in Waco, Texas. The Oklahoma State Cowboys are traveling to Baylor in a 9 versus 16 matchup. Obviously, the big implications with the way the Big 12 is. I think it's going to be a fight until the last week of the season with the way some of these teams are playing. Looking at you, Ole Miss, Oklahoma and Texas. TCU's up there. Texas Tech is up there. Kansas. Like, Big 12 is wide open this year.
Yeah, and I think a benefit of the divisionless system the ACC will adopt starting next season is it doesn't matter what the standings look like across the way. You're all in one big group jockeying for the 1 and 2 spot overall, not just the 1 spot in your half. And we certainly see a bit of a gap between the Atlantic and the Coastal usually. No better example than maybe this year. And so, these teams need this game. Oklahoma State, Baylor. I think we get a 2-loss, maybe even a 3-loss champion out of the Big 12 just because of how chaotic it's going to be with Texas, Oklahoma on the road this week at TCU. They might have 2 losses before we get into October. But back to the biggest game on the slate as far as their conference goes. Oklahoma State, a little bit shades of Michigan, haven't really been tested too much here in the early slate, but that's kind of what it's for. So Baylor going into Ames last week being a pretty good Iowa State team. And so got to give them credit there. They got the rankings bump they deserve, and they're actually a small favorite here with the Pokes coming to town. And I think that's fair, just given what we've seen from these two teams so far. But yeah, like you said, should be an epic one. Could very well be a shootout with Shapen and Spencer Sanders if they're at their best. And it'll be a great game.
Yeah, rematch of the Big 12 championship game last year, which if Oklahoma State was an inch closer, they're in the playoffs. Yeah, so that's the only way to put it. So definitely a little bit of extra juice behind that game coming after what happened last season.
Absolutely. But yeah, sticking in the Big 12, we're talking about these ranked teams. There's some sneaky games below them as far as maybe the hype and national TV attention. Kansas might go 5-0 as they host Iowa State, who put up a heck of a fight against Baylor last week, ultimately falling. I think it was 31-24. So that's, no shame in that one. That's definitely in pretty lost territory. And so now Kansas, coming off a big win against Duke last week at home in Lawrence, hosting another not ranked but pretty good team in Iowa State, who's, in their early season, they've already beaten Iowa on the road. So that's a big one for them. That is their only road game, though. So I'm interested to see how Matt Campbell and the Cyclones travel in conference. And 5-0 Kansas. Imagine that sentence in a couple days.
Yeah, you could have paid me $1,000 and I wouldn't have believed it at all.
For the non-degenerates, this team's win total, so their forecasted wins, was 2.5.
Yeah, they hit it in 3 weeks.
Right, and they might double it here soon. And
And I
so
don't think anybody saw it except for maybe, I don't even think Kansas fans saw it.
they beat Texas on the road last year, their first road Big 12 win in like 50, 60 tries. I mean, that's talk about a culture shift and the results following. I think he's got some really good things going. And, maybe the magic does die this week with, they're not going undefeated, but the undefeated start. But I think this team certainly has bowl aspirations now and can do a lot of things to shake it up in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of a couple other Big 12 teams, two teams looking to bounce back after both losing. Oklahoma and Texas. They obviously don't play this week. They got a couple weeks until our big rivalry showdown. Oklahoma's at TCU and Texas is hosting West Virginia. TCU is a little frisky this year.
Yeah, that's another undefeated team to start with, also unranked. But I mean, they're not going to go down without a fight anywhere, especially in the Big 12. We've seen it in the past, and I think we'll keep seeing it, to be honest. So this Oklahoma team I think is a TD favorite maybe on the road, and that you couldn't pay me to touch that one. I'm looking at 6.5 right now, total of 69. So pretty nice setup there.
Everybody wins. Woo!
Yeah, I don't know.
Brent.
I was about to say Godspeed, Brent Venables. I mean, you always say you hate to be the team playing after the team that pulls the upset, but if you're TCU, I think they're pretty ready for this. I don't know if we see an upset, but I certainly don't see a Nebraska game repeat either. Something firmly in the middle there. So that'll be interesting to see.
Definitely. And then Texas, I don't know what you're going to really get out of them. Queen Ewers traveled, stretched, warmed up, was dressed in warm-ups or something last week. I still think he's got a week or two, but I mean, JT Daniels up there in West Virginia, so could be a good quarterback matchup if he comes back, which I'd bet the house that he doesn't play this week. So
yeah, I think that Texas is smart, unlike my Chargers, to realize what's in front of them and not what's happening right now. This West Virginia team, I think, is a coach away. And unfortunately, they still employ the guy that maybe be limiting them, and Neil Brown. So, I mean, with a lame duck coach seemingly in Morgantown, and they're coming on the road to a team like Texas coming off a loss, I think Hudson Card can certainly do enough to handle West Virginia. I mean, there's no really truly terrible teams in the Big 12, but I would say West Virginia is down towards the bottom. And so I think that coming back home, Texas is going to look to refocus, notch a win in the Big 12, and Quinn Ewers returning for a Texas team that does have a loss, but certainly has a lot of potential still, especially in the Big 12 going forward.
Yep. So yeah, like we said this whole time, Big 12 is going to be fun to watch down the rest of the road. Definitely keep an eye on it. I doubt we'll see a playoff team come out of there, but
no, just too much carnage, I think.
Unless like Oklahoma State just rattles off, goes undefeated, and
Right.
gets some help from top 4 teams, but that's probably just about the only path.
Yeah, I mean, a one-loss Big 12 team certainly would get a lot of consideration. They should, just because of what you have to do to get to that point. But we've seen it year after year with this conference, and when Oklahoma does squeak through, the defense just hasn't been there to keep up. So maybe now with Brent Venables, they can. That's just asking a lot. You drop one in September and have to run the table. But
yeah, it's going to be tough with either got possibly Alabama, Georgia, both of them in again. Hopefully an undefeated Clemson.
Right.
And then if Southern Cal stays steady,
that's an offense right there.
Yeah, I don't see how you can't keep them out, or how you can keep them out. So a lot of help needed for the Big 12. Speaking of Georgia and Bama, 3 of the top 4 are on the road this weekend. Georgia is going to Mizzou, not that that's much of a road game. Bama is going to Arkansas, which coming off of last week for Arkansas, that's a tough loss. So it's going to be tough to see them not necessarily get up for the game, but definitely doesn't have as much juice as it would have with an undefeated Arkansas. And then Michigan is going to the highly octane, insane offense of Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at that and you kind of look at it again like, all right, 3 of the top 4 teams in the country are on the road. I think Bama's the shortest favorite at 17 and a half points. Actually, no, Michigan's laying 11 points.
Yeah,
so
which is wild.
Yeah, I don't know if Iowa scores 10 points. So
no.
To say Michigan ducks under 21, good luck. But I mean, we've kind of done this in the past. We've looked at it. It's like, okay, this team sucks, this team sucks, this team sucks. And we see a huge upset. I mean, do you see any of these 3 teams slipping up in road spots in conference here?
No. I mean, Arkansas might keep it close. That might be the closest game out of it, unless Iowa's defense is actually good and their offense is just terrible. But I might maybe a couple teams cover, but if that, there'll probably be a couple blowouts, maybe all three.
I think Michigan, if they had not faced an opponent to the caliber of Maryland last week, I know that was at home and Maryland not a ranked team, but they're certainly a good team. I think that's going to help them a bit. If they do have some adversity early, get punched in the mouth, some fluke play, especially like an Iowa defensive score, something crazy like that, I think they'll be a lot better off as far as bouncing back from that.
2 safeties and a field goal, but I don't see Michigan doing that.
Yeah. Notice I didn't say offensive touchdown because we might not see one. So I just, yeah, Bama, Arkansas. I wasn't high on this Arkansas team. They showed me why last week. I bet against them, picked against them. Now, I will say that field goal was lucky, but I mean, there were things that led up to that. They should have never been in that position. They should have won the game before that, and they didn't. And that's how you get beat in college football. So I don't expect them to seriously test Bama, as shaky as they've been on the road in conference lately. And then Georgia at Mizzou. I mean,
yeah, there's not much to say about it. I mean,
I've seen this movie in Colombia.
it's going to be deja vu all over again.
They're going to be murder scenes. It's
Yogi Bear would say. But there's actually going to be a good, I guess you would say, SEC matchup this week. Kentucky and Ole Miss are facing off. That's a top 15 clash. I don't know. I've been on the record that I'm a Kentucky guy.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're a top 10 team.
No. The only reason they're not in the top 10 is because they haven't lost yet. And they tested that against Northern Illinois last week, winning by 8. But, I mean, Ole Miss, we have Lane Kiffin pleading the students to show up, which is embarrassing given the life he's given that program the last 2+ years. Obviously, Jackson Dart, a young QB trying to elevate to the levels of Matt Corral. But, I mean, I hope they show up, and I hope they stay there for the second half. I mean, it looked like a high school out there, like Lane Kiffin said. So hopefully the fans led by Ben Mintz in the student section this weekend can help that team out like they deserve. The 7-point spread, I really don't know about that. We've already seen Will Levis and this Kentucky team go into number 12 Florida, who frankly shouldn't have been 12, but they beat Utah. So it is what it is, and beat them by 2 scores. So I'm really confused by this 7-point line here.
They do get one of their top running back, Kentucky does, coming off a suspension from a DUI from this off season. So I guess that might play in a little bit, but even it's a home game too. So
yeah, I mean, if you're giving me a touchdown with Will Levis, that's hard to pass up, and we'll touch on that later with the straight up picks and then beyond. But that's just one you scroll through early in the week and you're like, why? How did this number get to here? Yeah. But stranger things have happened. So
stranger things. Another matchup in the SEC, Texas A&M is traveling to Stark Vegas. It's the you deemed it as the unnecessary roughness bowl, which is obvious because Casey Smith, Texas A&M, King of the South, Brandon Walker, Mississippi State. Texas A&M coming off that big win against Arkansas, and Mississippi State is just Mississippi State. So Heisman hopeful Will Rogers going up against Texas A&M's defense. So he's going to have to have another game.
Right. At home, which I think the environment and the cowbells certainly give them a couple points towards them. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that, like you said, Will Rogers, the best quarterback in this matchup pretty easily. I mean, I know Max Johnson's 2-0 since taking over, but it hadn't been pretty. And I think Will Rogers, if he can have himself a day, they could win. They could easily cover. I mean, I will say that defense is one of, if not the best, that they'll play all year. They probably have Bama down the road as well, but I just think that it's hard not to take the best quarterback at home, but you are facing the best defense. That's always a tough choice to make there, but I would lean towards Mississippi State just because of the quarterback play, Will Rogers, and his ability to win these type games. And I think if they can force A&M into mistakes and, keep time of possession in their favor like we saw App State do, maybe not to that extent, but just enough to they can't beat you without the ball. So I think if they lean on that a bit, limit A-Chain and all that, I think that they have a chance. And the best part about this matchup is all week we will see a lot of spirited discussion between Brandon and Casey on unnecessary roughness. They've got a couple shows out this week. I'm sure they'll be talking this plenty. There's usually a bet on the line.
Yeah, they got hate week tomorrow for them too.
So Brandon will lose his shit or Casey will lose her shit at the end of the day, and that's going to be pretty entertaining to watch. Hopefully not a road trip in store or Brandon in that god-awful milkman costume again, but you never know with these two and the bets that Dave and Big Cat make for them. So it should be a good game, to say the least.
Yep, I agree. I'll definitely be watching that as well. Let's see. Out on the West Coast, I mean, not nothing crazy. Southern Cal is going to the head coachless Arizona State Sun Devils. USC's facing Stanford, which I mean we thought at the beginning of the year that was a trap game for Southern Cal. I don't see anything crazy.
Yeah, it's the best teams they have to offer outside of Utah, who's also in action, but a little bit earlier on. I mean, USC facing an Arizona State team who got thoroughly handled by Utah last week, and so I think they come in as 25-point dogs, interim head coach, and just not a lot to play for. I mean, you think with the portal and how it's set up, a lot of these guys won't be here soon, especially not next year. That's just how it works these days. So the Arizona State program has a lot to figure out before they're, I think, a live dog in a spot like this at Southern Cal. And then you got Stanford playing Oregon, which you can throw out records, rankings, whatever else you want to with this game. Doesn't matter where it's played either. It is in Eugene, but I mean, we saw this Oregon team a week ago in Wazoo about give one away, and it took a late TD by Nixon, a pick six to put it away. And so I don't know. I think they're going to be good games, solid games. They're both pretty late at 10:30, so it's what you want out of a late slate, I think. And you glance at those, you see 6-13 hosting unranked teams that at this point in the season don't have a ton to play for other than that spoiler role, and that's exactly where we see them this week. So
yep.
I don't see an upset either way. Like the top teams on the road this week, I just don't know if they lose, but I mean, we could definitely see a couple of covers out of these matchups.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe a couple of not even overs.
God, they're both in the 60s here late. Looks like Arizona USC at 60.5 and Stanford Oregon sitting at 64 currently.
USC's gonna have to get 50 by themselves. Good Lord.
Yeah, and after last week, they're gonna look to unleash that offense as much as they can. So we may very well see it.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. I know we touched on it a little bit, but obviously tonight South Carolina SC State got moved for the Hurricane.
Right, and
crazy.
I think it's good that we get to see teams duking it out for the rights to the third best team in the state. So good for them.
Well, yeah, fourth. Put Furman over them.
When South Carolina loses, it'll be fourth.
Coastal Carolina.
Right, it's us and then Coastal and then
North Greenville.
You can throw Wofford in there above these two. And so maybe if South Carolina can avoid losing in games like this throughout, then we'll see a lot of touchdown signals from the coaching staff. Maybe not down 30 this time. That would be nice to see for a program that's been cycling in for 4 years now. So
yeah,
that's one that you hope your power goes out so you don't have to watch, but it is on TV. I would highly encourage you to flip to Tua and Joe Burrow instead.
Yeah, but my friend, he offered me. He's told me, yeah, y'all want to go to the game? Me and my girlfriend are going. Tickets are like $18 for tonight. I said no.
You should be paid no less than $50 to show up to that game.
Yeah, man, I would just go just to watch South Carolina State's band. They put on a show.
That will be the most entertaining aspect of this game, unless South Carolina State can cover and win. I think they're like 35-point dogs, which, I mean, is South Carolina going to beat anybody by 35? I don't know. They're losing to Georgia State. They're losing to Charlotte. But
they'll lose by a team by 35. I can tell you that for sure. That is fact.
Yeah. This isn't Citadel, so maybe they won't lose outright, but you never know.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, so that's, like we mentioned, pretty top of a slate. Some sneaky quality games in there. Like we mentioned, Kansas, Iowa State, unranked matchup. That'd be a good one to watch. Oklahoma and Texas, and some tricky potentially spots out in the Big 12, under the radar as we see two top teams square off in Oklahoma State and Baylor. And then obviously all playoff eyes, I think this weekend will be on the ACC Atlantic and those two big games we mentioned that we'll actually pick both of those games in the game day picks. But first, I did pick a noon game. It is number 7 Kentucky at the Grove, hopefully in front of more than 200 students as they face number 14 Ole Miss. Ole Miss a touchdown favorite.
I know I went on a spiel earlier about them, but I got to back the blue. I'm going with Kentucky.
I was torn on this game, so I told myself I'd just do the opposite of what you did. I think that Jackson Dart can make just enough plays, maybe. Certainly he'll be the second best quarterback in this game, but if he can outplay him for 4 quarters, then I think Ole Miss gets there. I think Ole Miss is maybe a touch better than their 14 ranking indicates, and I don't think Kentucky's worthy of number 7. I think it's kind of like Oklahoma State, and then they haven't lost yet. So I think going on the road goes differently than when they went to the Swamp. I'll take Jackson Dart and Ole Miss, and hopefully a far more energetic student section at Ole Miss.
Yeah, that's just a tough game to pick in general.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Big 12 battle we've mentioned a couple times now. Number 9, Oklahoma State heading to Waco to face number 16, Baylor. The home team, a very slim 2-point favorite here at 330. Who you like in there?
Go Pokes. Fire the guns. I'm going with Oklahoma State.
All right. I was back and forth on this game. I'm going to pull a bit of an odd example. I think last week we saw Michigan, another top 10 team, facing their first true competition of the year. It was at home, and I think it was a 17-point spread, and they were never going to cover that. I'm going to take the home team again. I think Aranda can do enough to keep these guys ready for this matchup. I mean, they just came off a big road win against Iowa State, and certainly Oklahoma State's head and shoulders above them as a team and program. But I think that getting that first conference win, getting the freshmen involved, things like that. They got a young running back, a true freshman who's done really, really well. And so I think I'm going to take Shapen to protect home field. They lost a tough one to BYU, but I don't think that's going to drag over multiple weeks. They bounced back last week, got a road win. They come back home, and I think they get it done against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, we got 2 picks, 2 different picks.
These next 3
first time we've ever seen.
Probably won't be. First of 2 huge ACC matchups. Number 22 Wake Forest heads to Jordan Travis, and the number 23 Florida State Seminoles. Seminoles a touchdown home favorite, also at 330. Who you like there?
That's tough. You said it's at 3:30.
Yes.
I probably. Oh God, that's a tough one. I don't think Florida State's quite there yet. I'm going to go with Wake Forest. I think that offense is too good. Their defense showed a lot to me last week, being able to stifle us for a good quarter and a half, 2 quarters. I'm going Wake Forest.
All right, I was wrong. I'm going to take the Seminoles. I think Jordan Travis and this Florida State team can do enough on the ground to shorten this game, keep the ball out of Hartman's hands. We saw what happens when he has the ball last week. He torched us. That was a young beat-up secondary, though. I don't know if that carries over again on the road in a big matchup. I think a lot of emotions coming off that, and Hartman will certainly be ready. That receiver room is going to be ready as well. But I'm going to go with the home team again. I'm surely going to lose at least one of these first 3, but
I was about to say you're going all home teams.
Give me the Jordan Travis at home. I think this is a coming out party for him and the Seminoles, and they kind of take over that what if role from Wake Forest. They had their big chance last week, could have get it done double overtime. So now I think Florida State sets up as the spoiler in the Atlantic with a date against Clemson on the horizon as well as NC State. So with those games in front of them and a win over Wake, I think they're setting up to have a really good season down there.
Yeah. So first 3 games, we're going to have some separation in the.
All right. These last 2, we're going to have the same pick, I promise you. Number 2, Alabama, taking their talents down to Fayetteville to face number 20, Arkansas. Arkansas coming off a heartbreaking loss that probably cost them game day, to be honest, as much as we know ESPN loves the SEC. So you think an upset happens here?
Bama next. I'm just kidding. That's short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, Bama next. Next game, we have Dave Doran and the NC State Wolfpack and their quarterback, who's apparently God but can barely beat East Carolina, against our Clemson Tigers in Tiger Town in Death Valley at night with game day and maybe a hurricane. And we are a 6.5 point favorite.
Yeah. I can't pick against the boys in a game like that. So we're obviously going to go Clemson. I'm going to go ahead and say it for you. I think it'll be close. I don't know how much the weather is going to affect, if it's just a casual rain or what, but I don't know. It's going to be a fun game to watch no matter what.
Yeah. I hope every member of the student staff brings a laptop for Saturday night and all the players have 10 extra towels because given the past, we're going to need both of those things. So, yeah, give me Clemson. Dave Doran's still a coach. I still am not scared at all about this team. Last year, they got lucky in overtime at home. I don't care. Give
And
me
they also
Clemson.
gave the ball to their best wide receiver 14 times. I know our secondary ain't much this year, but they don't have a guy like that this year. A Mickey, whatever his name was.
Right, I know you're talking about.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
And
give
they're
me Clemson.
yeah. So different on 3, same on 2. So, which I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting week. We might have some separation. I might make some ground. You might take the cake. Who knows?
It's home versus road. We'll see.
Yeah. Go Road Warriors. Road Dogs.
Speaking of that, I don't know any of your picks. I never do, but we need 3 locks this week, Bailey. Start us off with one.
3 very pickable locks. It's the most insecure lock you could ever have on anything.
How'd we do last week?
Oh, let me see. As a matter of fact.
Give the people a recap just because I know I was up again.
Shut the hell up. Recap from game day picks. I am 15-10. Grayson 17-8. Jacob is 10-10. I went 2-3. Grayson went 4-1. Jacob went 3-2 last week. Bet picks. I went 2 out of 3. Grayson went 2 out of 3. Jacob went over. Southern Cal screwed me and Grayson over. I'm 6-8-1. Grayson's 8-7, so that's a pretty tight race. And Jacob is 3-9, just tagging along. He did not give us his picks in time, so we will tweet him out along with us. So those are the standings. It's pretty tight so far in college football. About a game or 2 separating each between the bets and the pick'ems. So it'll be a tight race down the end of the stretch, hopefully.
Yeah, should be a good one. But what's the first bet you like on the board?
I'm going down to Tallahassee, and I am expecting an offensive showdown with Wake's defense just doing enough. Give me the over 64.
As long as the weather's not too bad, I think it's still fling the ball. That might get to 80.
Yeah, so it got to 80 last week, or 90 or whatever our final score was.
It was a million. It was 100. Yeah, it was a lot. I'm also taking a total. It's also a big one. I'm going to go under, though. Bama and Arkansas, 60.5. I don't see Arkansas at 30. And I don't see Bama at 40. So we've seen this Bama team win some just absolute knockdown, drag-out games on the road. We saw it at Auburn last year, Texas this year. I think the defense, scoring-wise, is one of the best in the country again. Arkansas got a taste of that last week and really didn't do a lot, so I'm expecting more of that. Even at home, I do have to give Brennan Walker credit for this one. He got me looking at this total, and I agree with him. I think it's going under. I don't know if it's a classic like Bama LSU field goal fest like we saw back in the day, but I just don't see 60 points in excess of 60 points in this game. So
Arkansas doesn't have a terrible defense. They got a linebacker that absolutely flies around. 42, I forgot his name, but he is a stud.
I think they'll get to the quarterback as well. That's going to help, force some incompletions, third and longs, things like that. So, yeah, give me an entertaining game, but not a shootout.
Yeah, that's a safe. 2 pretty safe bets to start off with. The second one that I have, I got screwed with it last week, but I like Michigan first half against Iowa, 6.5. Michigan just has to score a touchdown, so give me that first half.
Yeah, I will leave you with that pick. I wasn't on it, but I will definitely be betting that on Saturday. So shout out for finding that hidden gem. I was let down by my wagon last week in Southern Cal, so I found a new one. It's the Kansas Jayhawks. They're getting 3 points at home.
I almost
give me the points. Jalen Daniels is going to be the best player on the field. He's averaging 80 yards a game on the ground so far. Iowa State does have a really good defense, so it's going to be a battle of strength on strength there. But give me this Jayhawk rushing attack to shorten the game, keep it close, and keep the Magic season going. I hope they go 5-0. If not, I'm going to need a heartbreaker to get this bet home. But yeah, give me Kansas plus the 3.
Yeah. I picked them in the pick'ems. I think they're going to obviously. I'm going to go with OK State plus 2. I might as well just lay it out all in line with that game. I think they have the better quarterback, and hopefully they pull it out for me. That's all I need.
Yeah, I like that one. That's going to be another thriller, I think, in the middle of Slate. So hopefully you're on the right side of that one. Another one, I don't think it's going to be a thriller, but it has a top team in it. Give me Georgia minus 29. We've seen this movie before, like I said earlier. They went to Columbia, South Carolina, and they could have scored 150 points if they wanted to. They could have beaten them with Brock Bowers and 3 linemen by themselves. I think they go into Mizzou. I don't think Drinkowitz has this program where he thought he would, and I don't think he starts the upward trajectory back this weekend. Again, we've seen Georgia murder an SEC team on the road already, 49-7. It's 29 points. Give me the 29. I'm just hoping there's no backdoor cover. This Georgia team's been pretty stout. Late, they did give up a TD to USC when the coach's kids' nephews were playing, but yeah, give me the Bulldogs laying the 29 points.
Yeah, I like that one. Those large spreads, I just don't like touching, but I still might do it anyway, just because it's a terrible Missouri team against Georgia. So definitely, I like my bets this week. I like yours too. So hopefully they're locked for you this week.
That's usually a bad sign, but yeah.
Wouldn't necessarily follow our lead, but do us a favor, maybe.
Yeah, not financial advice, and if you do it responsibly. But yeah, so that's it for the college slate. Like we mentioned before, we will get you Jacob's picks. Would not follow those at all, but they will be on our Twitter at the 1009. This will be where you usually listen to it, Apple and Spotify. And of course, if for whatever reason you want to watch this, and unfortunately you can't see Bailey's dog, but you will probably hear him. And so that will be on our YouTube, the 1009 podcast on there. We are about to cut this and get straight to the NFL, but we appreciate you guys listening if you're only in it for the college. So hopefully you are more prepared for
listen for
Saturday.
About just like 2 minutes. Get us some views.
Yeah, just click on it. Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into it. We'll catch y'all later.
Subscribe.